Let's start with questions.
Yes, you can ask.
Tell me, is the Earth flat or round? And if it is round, why is it depicted as flat on the UN flag?
Let Midgascow's answer.
Actually, the Earth has a shape that can be roughly described as an ellipse. It is more elongated at the equator, but at the poles, it is this shape. Why is it said that the Earth is flat? Because usually, this is how your planet is perceived by those structures that you call plasmoids. They are in the ethereal body, and they have receptors, but they do not have such eyes. For example, the same sylphs, being in the air, look at the Earth from above downwards, and flying above it, see it as a plane.
The permanent plane.
The word slavery has another meaning, like devotion. And in Greece, there are different concepts of love, storge, aginia, agape. Can they explain all these expressions for us to understand?
Mead can answer that.
I didn't even understand the question. Midgascow's did.
Storge is more of a friendly devotion. I was talking about another devotion, unconditional devotion, which in Greek is called agape. It is not just devotion, it is a complete giving of oneself, and complete trust in the energy structure to which one gives oneself, i.e., in this case, to the light, to God. It is impossible not to trust it completely when you realize yourself as a part of the light. And here, perhaps it will be appropriate now to read our Islarian affirmation. Mead wants to read the attunement. It doesn't have the word devotion in it, but it is attuned to those vibrations. He suggests that we read the attunement now so that everyone is in tune before answering your questions. I am the universe. The universe is me. The power of the universe is my power, and my spirit is part of the stream of existence of the Creator of all worlds. Its power will be for the benefit of all beings in all worlds and planes of existence. Reality and truth will abide, and falsehood in the illusion of perception will disappear forever.
Islaya affirmation. I am one with the universe, and its power is within me. My spirit is part of the ultimate Creator's existential flow. His power is serving the good of all beings in all worlds and planes of existence. May reality remain in its true form. May deceiving perception vanish forever.
Why did he read this mood now? Because he who has realized himself as the universe and has realized himself as the stream of existence of the Creator of all worlds cannot but be devoted, he cannot but love. When I say we, I mean ourselves. Our thoughts and feelings, our energy, our will, that's all that is us. We are, in fact, the streams of the Creator's existence. Here is the Creator God exists right now, and we are right now as parts of his thought, and he is thinking of us right now. He has not just thought of us, he continues to think about us, and one of his thoughts is now embodied in this body. That is, we are all a part of him. And whoever realizes that, not just read it and feel it, he cannot but be betrayed, he cannot but be a slave, but he does it voluntarily. He is not taken into slavery by force. In fact, the word slave of God implies that a person recognizes that he is nobody's slave anymore. Neither a slave of his instincts, nor a slave of demons of low vibrational structures, nor a slave of his negative qualities.
I call it joining the light team. I believe that prayer is just as energizing if you belong to the Christian egregore and sincerely, truly believe in it. And this is the Essler prayer.
Are we high vibrational beings? To what extent can we realize it ourselves?
I think Ram Tian would be a good answer. He's a specialist in energy interactions with hybrid life forms in the galaxy from planet Burkhad. I understand Mead roughly, but I haven't heard Ram Tian.
He said that one can assess one's vibrational level of essence, being in this physical world, in this material world, in this material body, by the purity and level of sudden spontaneous connections with the light. Now he will explain what this is all about. Many people have such a state when they feel without doing any exercises, but by themselves. For example, waking up in the morning, it does not matter at what time, and it can be sudden, they suddenly begin to feel connected. At the level of esotericism, this is called enlightenment, illumination, i.e., he feels himself as light.
Would you say it's more of a sattvic state?
If by the terminology of Hinduism, yes, it is rather not even sattva, it is rather moksha. You should be able to understand the term. Mead is a specialist in Hinduism, and sattva is a Hindu concept. On the understandable level of secular consciousness, it is called an epiphany. i.e., a person suddenly feels that he is a part of God, he is not a body. And not just not being a body, the first sign is a feeling of great joy, sometimes reaching rapture. In psychology, it is called by the term ecstasy. It is not only mental insight. In this state, it is a common characteristic of man to simply stand still and not move. So he has a sense of eternity. He always is, always has been, always will be. I think that anyone who has experienced it will never mistake it for anything else. This is the first point. The second point is that the higher a person raises his vibrations, the better he feels subtle material worlds. He begins to awaken those centers, which we call the seventh energy center. Being in the physical body, we begin to feel the spiritual worlds that are near us. First, these are plasmoid worlds. Then come more subtle astral worlds. In everyday life, such a person who is on high vibrations will differ from others in that he will perceive life optimistically. And even if he has difficulties, he will not fall into despair, but will realize that they are sent to him as a lesson. The more frequent the depressive states, the lower the frequencies. This is an optimistic, benevolent attitude to people, willingness to help, not to the detriment of yourself and not to the detriment of the one you help. The more frequent and the more sincere these feelings are, the higher the vibrations of the spirit. It is by such criteria that they can be distinguished, i.e., not by certain words a person speaks, as he can speak very beautifully, but in soul be different. If two people communicate and one of them is sensitive or simply experienced in life, a good psychologist or simply wise, elderly, lived a lot, then usually he feels it very well. It is manifested not only in words, it is manifested in behavior, in the world view of a person, in his deeds, and even in small things. For example, a person is traveling in a bus, and if he talks a lot about spirituality, about the spiritual world, and says, "I meditate, I communicate with entities of a high order," but at the same time, if he sees an old man and does not give way to him, and if he does, it is only to appear good in front of everyone. And a high-spirited person cannot fail to do so because he has a built-in vibration that will see that help is needed. From this vibration, he perceives the world differently. He perceives every person with whom he communicates as his equal, i.e., neither higher nor lower. He does not rise above anyone, he does not humiliate himself before anyone, he considers everyone, whoever is in front of him, as brothers and sisters in the one light.
If a woman has an abortion in the 7th month of pregnancy before the spirit has united with the physical body, is it murder, sin, or not?
Ramtian is ready to respond. The fact that in the 7th week, the spirit enters the earthling's body, the spirit settles into the body of an earthling. It's already fully united with the physical body. But this does not mean that he cannot go out of it into the astral, as we all go into the astral when we sleep. In fact, the spirit connected with the life force who was brought to incarnations by spirit guides of the 21st level, they are called angel guides, bring that spirit, who has already been chosen parents, life, country, to the place where he should be born. Planets are chosen first. We can actually incarnate on any planet, in general in the plasmoid worlds, even on the sun, on Antares, or on Earth. Spirits consultants of the 22nd level help to choose the country, gender, family.
The level of spirit's incarnation for the soul lesson.
Everyone is individual, depending on what you need to accumulate. When all this is already picked up, they choose parents. How do they choose parents? Spirits consultants stand with the spirit which wants to incarnate in a special room, which is usually called Hall of Memory. It's a bright room with a screen that shows. I conditionally say with a screen to make it clear to everyone.
There is a slightly different structure there, but to make it clear how it happens in our physical world.
I still have to express myself through the image of the physical world, otherwise we won't understand. There are no screens physically. In front of the spiritual screen, so to speak, each spirit sees dad and mom, and he chooses them with the help of counselors. A spirit can refuse to incarnate with them, but then it can be denied incarnation. They have a certain queue for incarnation, as there are a lot of spirits, and you have to wait. If he has already waited for his turn, he has to agree with those whom he has been picked up, but they do not incarnate anyone by force. There is a contract that gives him the opportunity to incarnate, and he incarnates wherever he is prompted. He understands that the counselor's advice is good. They do not force him, but they tell him, if you want to incarnate, you have such and such a choice, and the spirit already decides for himself. When consenting to incarnation, the spirits choose a certain time of incarnation, even a certain day, hour, year.
That's what we call astrology. Astrology, it all works. Spirits come to a certain time, to a certain place, to certain structures of planets. It is called corridor.
With certain tasks for incarnation. Spirits are necessarily present at the conception of their bodies. Each of us was present at the conception when the male and female cells are united. The spirit is not alone, but usually with guides, because it has to be led into the material world from the world of disembodied spirits through the astral. When the male and female cells are united and the first division of this new cell begins, the spirit already has the life force, which it has received from the sources of nature of spirits, from God, precisely to unite with this new body, and the spirit can already be called soul. It has already united with this life force, which we call in Russian ether, etheric body. In the East, there is a term for this, prana. Standing next to it, he introduces into these cells which have already divided a part of his life force. He is already united with it, but he himself does not enter there yet.
Gives energy for the growth and development of those cells, which then, in the end, will give him the opportunity to incarnate into this physical body.
Up to 7 weeks, until the body develops, the spirit is close by, usually with the mother. He may be away from her, he may be traveling in the astral, or even returning to his spiritual level, but more often he is close by. The cells that divide are a living entity separate from mom's body. Why are they separate? Because in addition to the cell of mom's body, the cell of dad is also present there. Since the cell of daddy is present there, this genetic information forms a third, an organism, which is already different from the genetic set of mom and from the genetic set of daddy, if it is considered on the bodily level. On the spiritual level, there is energy in it, and it is very small, but it is there, which does not belong to mom. It is the energy of this spirit right here that will have to go into the body. If you interrupt life consciously before the spirits move in, it will still be a murder, i.e., taking the life of this spirit. Why would it be murder? Because if we deprive this body of life now, it will not be able to enter it in the future and will not be able to be born. And since it will not be able to be born, it will not be able to fulfill its tasks, which it may have been waiting for many years for this incarnation.
As for incarnation, the term of incarnation I asked approximately, it is somewhere from 50 to 100 years, the average level of waiting for the incarnation of spirits.
Sometimes they wait 400 years.
It has become faster only due to the fact that the number of physical beings for the incarnation of spirits in our galaxy is increasing.
It would still be the same as killing an adult, only it's time delayed, so you're not killing a physical body that's born, you're preventing it from being born. It makes no difference to them if you kill a spirit that has already been born or if you prevent it from being born, because it is still murder to them.
Spirits don't get killed? Is it the physical body that gets killed?
Of course, we don't kill the spirit, we only kill the body.
Ancestral energies. A man in this clan was born. His spirit went to the place where all spirits are. And then he incarnates and drags with him the ancestral energy, which he did not acquire himself, but it goes through the clan. If the spirit is himself, why does he drag the ancestral energy? It turns out that he came to this clan not with it. Somebody somewhere has done something, then he rests for 100 years, waits, and the other will pay for him here.
Why is he going to pay for it?
Is he by birth, or on the contrary, will he receive some benefits?
Explain what you mean by the word ancestral energies.
Ancestral programs, an ancestral egregore that is for you, created for you. Why do they say tribal energy? Because a person in this lineage, he has this and this, but he did not do it, and the one who did badly went to rest and says, beauty. To be unhappy, it's written in the birth. There is such an expression. Why? The soul has come into the family as a new one.
In order for us to understand the terminology now, I will depict how the spirit leaves after death, where it comes to, where it is, and where the egregore is. Here we have the material world. There will be one strip here. This is the material world. This is where the physical body is in the material world. Here is the second layer, the astral world. Above it, higher in vibrations, is the world of disembodied spirits. Physical world. Just above that will be the subtle material world, where the plasmoids live. The physical world has its own frequency of vibrations. The ethereal world is higher. Astral and the world of disembodied spirits, which itself is divided into levels or floors. When several people live on Earth in bodies, they do not just speak, think, feel, show emotions. They combine all this with the release of life force from themselves, of life force out of themselves. From the combination of oxygen and food, we get life energy in our bodies. When we spirits begin to have feelings, thoughts, emotions, desires, we release energy from ourselves and it all comes out of us, out of our auras. If two people have approximately similar thoughts, feelings, actions by vibrations, then in the astral, these thoughts are combined into a certain structure, which we call an egregor. There are religious, political, scientific egregors. What is a generic egregor is when there is a connection according to the level of vibrations of the physical body. Ancestral egregor is a connection in the astral of energies emitted by people with similar genetic information in the body. Father, mother, child, who live in one family. Egregors are in the astral. They are generic, social, religious. There are many of them. The world of disembodied spirits is above the egregors. When the physical body dies, the exit of the astral body, i.e. its spirit in the astral shell, is through the astral, through its egregor. It goes higher, where the disembodied spirits live. This takes different time for everyone. As long as the soul is connected to the life force, the spirit is called the spirits. When the body dies, the soul comes out, and for the first time it is in the astral. How long does it stay there? It is very individual. The average time is usually about 3 days. It depends on the attachments it has to the material world, i.e. if it misses it there, gets upset, then this period will be prolonged, as soul will not want to leave. Then it gets used to living without a body. Usually, if it is not an astral traveler, soul is not used to being without a body, and it first thinks it is alive and tries to do something. Then spirit guides come to the soul and say it's time to go higher, to another level. And soul rises to its level in the world of disembodied spirits, which it reached during its life, i.e. from the 1st to the 24th. And there is one important peculiarity. For example, two friends, or husband and wife, or child and mother, if they are on different levels, when one is higher and the other is lower, then the one who is on the highest level can, if desired, visit the spirit who is lower. The reverse cannot be the case, i.e., he who is on the lower level cannot visit the spirit who is on the higher, because he cannot ascend until he reaches it in his consciousness. Next, they live in the spiritual world. At first they have vitality, but every day, in earthly terms, it becomes less and less. It goes out of him. And approximately on average it is 40 days it finally leaves. This is very approximate, because it can be a month, it can be 60 days, but on average it is 40 days. And then the soul becomes a spirit because the life force has gone out of it, the life force. Usually the meeting with the light, the meeting with God, occurs for every spirit. It is usually after returning to the world of disembodied spirits. It meets God in the form in which it can perceive him, and usually it is light. There the spirit is shown in images how it has lived its life, where it has been incarnated before, whether it has fulfilled its tasks or not. All this becomes known. Further spirits is at the level it has reached, then lives for some time, analyzing everything. Spirit remembers all his life and analyzes whether he has achieved what he wanted. But if he wants to achieve something else, he will have to incarnate again, because matter is a means for change, for choice. And so a spirit decides to incarnate, to learn something, to bring something to other spirits, or to achieve some goal or dream. He decides to incarnate where a place has already been chosen for him, and the incarnation will go through these ancestral egregores. He will be escorted, and he will go to the material world. This does not mean that spirit will be responsible for some actions that he did not do. It means that he will use the energy accumulated by previous generations to achieve his goals, i.e., it will be another means.
Will soul fulfill everything that was not fulfilled in the past life in this new one?
It's not a fact, but the energies are there.
Question about genetic diseases. Are they transferred to the next incarnation or not?
What we call a genetic disease concerns the physical body. It does not pass into the ancestral egregore at the level of energy. The physical body after death remains on the earth. And the fact that there are some genetic disorders, some diseases, perhaps body damage, anything at the physical level, it does not concern the soul.
Genetics is not the body, it is spirits. It appeared on another level. Disease does not arise on the physical level.
What we call genetics is the structure of the physical body. What you call spirits genetics can be understood in many ways. You mean ancestral sins?
From body to body. There are genetic diseases are passed from mother to child.
These are diseases of the body.
Is it pure DNA from body to body? The child incarnated in the family, where his soul earned that genetic history.
Where his soul has a lesson with the genetic disease that is in this physiology by birth.
It's not like she earned it. If a teacher gives a difficult task to a student which he must fulfill for his perfection, it does not mean that the student is bad. It means he is given such a lesson for greater perfection, even if it is difficult for him to do. The fact is that our physical bodies are really just a means to perfect the spirits. DNA, diseases, they too are a means, but that doesn't mean they are a punishment. When a teacher gives a student a difficult assignment that he can't do, and even if it frustrates him, it doesn't mean we don't like him. We want to punish him, or we set him a task that he doesn't want to do, but we tell him clearly that if you don't do it, you won't achieve what you wanted. If you don't finish school, you won't get into an institute, you won't become this and that. If you don't understand that you can't offend the weak, when you grow up, you will have a lot of problems. It is learning on different levels, and it is not punishment, it is learning.
Then what is the essence of an ancestral egregore?
It's an energy support. The more light people a person had in his family, the easier it will be for him to overcome life's hardships, as he will feel the power behind him and support.
If there is a negative program in the family, for example, there was a landowner, lost, shot himself. Children fell into the Soviet power, survived, and then started doing business, and something happens there too, and a person almost reaches suicide. Then he went to a psychologist. They say it's a generic program. Grandfather shot himself. What's that? What's the point? Why did this spirit get into this situation and has to carry all this on himself?
If he got into such a clan egregore, where there is a negative program, it means that the spirit who incarnated also has it. He must pass this way, as it all happens for a reason, and everything is chosen very carefully.
Are we walking in our birth canal? Is it our ancestral soul incarnating, or is it conditional? I can go from one channel to another.
You can go not only to another birth channel, you can go to another planet.
The concept of the ancestral elevator.
This is if you decide to incarnate on Earth and in this lineage.
Is it a decision to incarnate on Earth to solve soul's problems?
Yes, for the soul task, that's right.
How will soul realize that it has already passed this lesson for its ancestors? It has taken the program of its ancestors. My ancestor was kulakized, and I start a business. My business does not work out. You see, this is a karmic program that is built into me from my ancestors. How do I understand how I can work it off? What can help me?
Realization, acceptance of this situation can help you, i.e. accepting it not for evil, not for the fact that you are being punished. It is not your ancestors' situation, and since you have come to these ancestors, it is yours too. You were not just forcibly placed in this physical body, you as a spirit chose it anyway. Such issues with karmic knots and everything else could exist in your ancestral egregore. You and this ancestor who created a situation for you may have incarnated, and you created a situation for him, which he worked out. This should be solved with your higher self individually.
When a physical body dies, what is the right thing to do? Burn it or bury it in the ground?
It all depends on the traditions of the country. The thing is that organs do not die all at once. They die in a certain sequence. Some souls can keep the fact that there is a body left on the earth, which still gives out energy for some time, until all the organs decompose, and if it is burned, all this is cut off at once.
Is it more environmentally friendly to incinerate?
You can't say that, because every country has its own traditions. There's formation of its own egregores. There's formation of a certain structure.
And if outside the egregore of your country, you wanted to leave the world in another way, do you have the right to do so? I don't want to be buried in the earth.
If the laws of this country allow it, of course you have the right to do so.
If you let your body be used for organs and it continues to live, How does that affect the soul?
When the organ of the deceased is transplanted to another body, it will already be in another body, and it will be fed with another life energy, and the influence is cut off. The organ of the deceased enters another physical body with its own vital energy. It begins to exchange blood, different energies on the physical and ethereal level with this body. As soon as it begins to be nourished by another, alien life energy, the connection with this spirit is cut off completely.
Can I ask you, in addition to the birth programs, so you can't change anything in your life? Recognize and live with it?
What do you mean, change?
To change something in this birth program, in this situation here and now, in this body.
You change this situation yourself at the expense of your life force.
So it's possible?
Yes, of course, this is what you come here for, in order to change and raise the level of vibrations of your spirit and the ancestral egregore you are in.
What about IVF?
Good question. Lynn Kruos, a leading organic chemist and bioecologist, they're doing experiments just like this. This is the planet Tashig.
What do they think about IVF? IVF is a scientific method of creating a physical shell, i.e., they see nothing bad in it because the incarnated spirit will choose those parents from whom these cells are taken.
Is this baby normal, full term?
This child is normal, full-fledged with the same spirit, only the conception did not take place in a natural environment. But for spirits, it has no obstacle. It will incarnate anyway.
Is there an additional load on a child from the egregorial structures of their parents in incarnation in a new body?
The point is that if children are not conceived in a normal way, it is not accidental either. But it doesn't mean that a person must accept this situation and not act differently. It is possible indeed to have diseases of the body which do not allow him to conceive, but for other reasons, not because he does not need a child. It happens for very different reasons. Disease arises for different reasons, and each case is different. If the spirit incarnated through any way, it cannot take anything additional with it, through IVF or otherwise, because on many planets of the interstellar union, this way of reproduction is quite normal, and many people have been living by it for many millennia.
I know for a fact that it's on the planet Daral. When the Daral people destroyed their planet long ago and moved to the planet Daral, they started to reproduce only through the machine, i.e. IVF, because they control their population. They always have 150 million living beings. One dies, they reproduce another, one dies, they reproduce another, etc. From what I understand, the Interstellar Alliance does not consider this a violation per se, but says it is possible. And how does this affect the soul level? Spirit, if incarnates into this physical program, it already understands perfectly well what program it is coming with.
Yes, random spirits do not go to IVF either, but those who have to go through this experience.
When a family does not get a child for a very long time, and they take a child from an orphanage, then soon their own children appear. Is there any connection?
Let Lishioni answer.
The point is that if the diseases of the body, which do not give the possibility to conceive a child, appeared precisely because the parents are not ready to learn how to bring up love for this child, and if they take a genetically alien child from an orphanage, they can, living with him, already become ready to become parents. They can learn to love and nurture. The spirit, when it lives in a physical body, is changeable. Living with this child, they can change themselves and become ready for the incarnation of their own spirit.
There appears the energy of love for reproduction of one's own child, even taking into account the disease that did not allow to conceive. There are many cases when there is infertility, and then a woman gets married, lives with this man, they exchange energy with each other, let's call it the energy of love, and in the end, this energy gives an opportunity to reproduce already to the one who was diagnosed with infertility. What is the telegony effect?
Let Rayom Tian answer. What you call the effect of telegony is an energetic influence of the etheric plane on the physical body. It is manifested both in the animal world and in the human world, but in the animal plane, it is manifested more strongly due to the fact that the reasonable spirit we are all talking about is not incarnated there, but the animal soul is incarnated. It is completely subordinated to the instincts of the animal body, so the effect of telegony is stronger in them. In man, this effect is manifested partially due to the fact that the instinctive programs of the physical body should normally be subordinate to the incarnated intelligent spirit. What you know as the telegony effect manifests itself as a law of physical life, which consists in the fact that a girl, according to the laws of the physical world, which God created, should normally have a child with the man she first knew. Generally, it is laid down in the divine laws and norms that the connection on the physical plane must take place in a state of union in love. Why it does not happen here on earth? It is precisely because the spirit is more influenced by instincts than by its own spiritual mind.
How reliable is the information that a woman keeps the information of the first man of her physical contact for the rest of her life and passes the information to her children?
This all happens on the energy informational level of the etheric body, not on the physical genetics.
On the physical plane, she's not storing some of his DNA?
The thing is that even the means that usually protect against pregnancy will not get rid of the effect of telegony. During physical union of a man and a woman, not only bodies but also auras, i.e. energy, are joined. These auras, while the bodies perform certain actions, also flow into each other, interact. Since it is a law of God laid down in the norms that the father of a woman's child should be the first, since it is generally laid down in the norms that the physical connection should only be a reflection of the spiritual connection. First, the connection in the spirit, and as a continuation, the connection in the bodies. The fact that this process is broken is a consequence of following instincts.
The question that worries and has worried all worlds, all traditions, all nations, all religions, and it is eternally controversial, and I do not know the answer to this question. I wonder how others will answer it. A child is born. Does he already have a destiny, or does he build it for himself? All religions argue about it.
Midgaskaus has already answered. Destiny is usually here called a certain program of life. Karma is rather the filling of fate. Fate, to what extent is it predetermined? It is predetermined, but at the same time it can be subject to change. How is that to be understood? Let's say when you start playing chess, for example, you have a certain established program, how to play and how to act. You can calculate for a few steps, but if your opponent acts in a way that breaks your program, then you will have to build a new one. Further, when you are in the spiritual world, you have your own plan of action. In your spiritual mind, you have already formed a certain program that you want to see as your destiny. You want to live your life in this way. The spirit is told where it will incarnate, and it already knows that it will live, for example, in Russia, in a poor family or in a rich family, etc. All these circumstances, of course, influence the destiny in a certain way. And while the spirit is waiting for incarnation, it is already calculating a certain plan for itself. How does it calculate? He thinks, when I incarnate, I will act like this and like this. Even the date and cause of death of the physical body is determined before we are born. The problem exists in that this date is predetermined, but it can change. It depends on the actions that spirit is living here. I will give a simple example. If a low vibrational demon incarnated, he will have a certain program of life to pass such lessons and die, for example, at the age of 40 from a heart attack. This is his fate. This program will be predetermined in him only if he will just live without changing himself, i.e. will follow these programs that are embedded in him. That is, if he does not want to change for the better. He will live his 40 years, get some experience, and that's all. In fact, you can neither raise nor lower your level, and you can die in it. Then this program will be fulfilled. If in the process of life he meets such people or reads some book that will turn his worldview upside down, and he will want to do good and bring light, he will realize himself and will sharply move to another level. Then his program changes. Why does it change? Because behind each person there are his mentors, who are called guardian angels. These are spiritual beings who were friends with him in the spiritual world, and here they keep and instruct him. They, seeing that this demon performs for one life task, which he was scheduled, for example, for 3 lives, ask God to push back this term so that he had time for one incarnation to do a lot. It happens that high vibrational spirits, for example, of the 20th level will incarnate here and will be carried away by matter, some acquisition, will do evil for various reasons. He was assigned a lifespan so that he would have time to do a lot of good in this world in 80 years. But if he incarnated and does evil, even if he is from the 20th level, his angel has the right to ask the mentors, God, to terminate the life of his ward before these 80 years so that he does not destroy himself greatly. This is how we change our destiny, which we ourselves build together with consultants, when we sit and think where and how to incarnate. That is, we are free in our choice, which exists in our life, but while we are embodied in this body, we are still in some circumstances which we often cannot change.
Is it possible to somehow go beyond the corridor of destiny, having received some codes, passwords, or help of high-energy structures or divine angels, in order to get out of this corridor of destiny?
Again, the question is very individual. To go beyond the corridor of destiny, if it corresponds to the programs of spirits, then yes, it is possible, but all this exists within the framework of the physical world, physical laws. But even over the physical laws, the lawgiver is God. He can change his laws if it suits his plans for this or that spirit. You may have met many cases when a person, for example, even falling from a high floor, just survived.
The Gushorians have a different structure than our civilization. They're silicon organic,
They're very high in hydrogen fluoride.
a silicon life form. They are humanoid type, but their whole structure is different from our physical structure, from the same Burkhard, Tumasaut, Essler.
You talked about spirits, levels 1, 2, and then what's next?
The 24th level, which is designated in the spiritual world as the last one for our perception, differs sharply from all the others in that when spirit reaches it on any planet, it no longer leaves the state of merging with this light, but becomes completely one with it. It is already completely light, and it manifests nothing but love into the world, even more than any other positive qualities and feelings.
That is, the next levels already take place in the light of truth and love, which we cannot even imagine on the physical level.
And he can't incarnate anymore.
He can incarnate at will, but the purpose of his incarnation will no longer be the cognition of the material world, not the enjoyment of the material world, but the teaching of others, the building of religious egregores and similar things, which lead other incarnated spirits to the light, to the same one in which they already live permanently.
Super God mode.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.